The moment I stepped into that glass-walled conference room, I felt the shift in the air, like the calm before a storm you know is coming but no one else sees. Alex, my boss of barely 3 years, sat there with his polished loafers kicked up on the table, flashing that grin, the one that said he was about to bury me alive and call it a promotion. We'd been through the trenches together. Or at least I had. 20 years at Apex Dynamics. Starting from a dingy warehouse in Silicon Valley's forgotten corner, where the air smelled like burnt coffee and desperation. I was the guy who turned scribbled notes into supply chains, who balanced books on a laptop that overheated every hour. Alex? He waltzed in from some Ivy League accelerator. All buzzwords and venture capital charm. Now here he was, transitioning me out.
He didn't waste time.
We're optimizing the structure, he said, leaning back, his voice smooth as corporate silk. Optimizing. Like I was dead code in his shiny new algorithm. The room was sterile. Fluorescent lights buzzing faintly overhead, reflecting off the manila folder he slid my way.
Inside.
The severance, a few months' pay, a pat on the back, and, oh, a casual mention of my equity, those 40,000 Class C shares I'd earned in lieu of a real salary back when we were bootstrapping. Relics, he called them, chuckling. Not even worth framing. But hey, thanks for the ride, Ethan. I didn't flinch. Didn't argue. Just leafed through the pages, feeling the weight of every clause I'd once helped draft. There it was, buried deep in the fine print of our original incorporation docs, Section 8.4c. A quiet little bomb I'd insisted on when we were desperate for that first seed round. Any major control shift, merger, acquisition, you name it, needed sign-off from a supermajority of Class C holders. And guess what? I was the only one left holding them. Everyone else had cashed out or diluted away. Alex didn't know. Or if he did, he thought I'd forgotten, like some old-timer clinging to faded glory. I slid the folder back and signed. Stood up, buttoned my jacket, the same one I'd worn to our first investor pitch, and walked out. His eyebrow twitched, but he said nothing. The click of the door behind me echoed like a starting gun. Outside, the California sun beat down on the parking lot, cars gleaming like they had futures ahead. Mine? It was just beginning to unfold. Back home in my modest ranch house in San Jose, the kind with a yard that needed mowing and a fridge stocked with leftovers, I poured a scotch.
Neat.
The lockbox in the garage yielded its treasures, the original certificate, yellowed but intact, notarized in '04. The binder of founding documents, tabs worn from years of reference. I flipped to the governance section, and there it sat, untouched by time or negligence. No one had amended it. No board vote to repeal. It was my ace, hidden in plain sight. Apex was on the cusp of a massive merger with Vertex Tech, a $200 million deal that would make headlines in TechCrunch and pad Alex's resume for life. I'd seen the leaks in internal chats, the ones they thought I'd been locked out of. Champagne dreams, stock options raining down. But without my nod, it was all vapor. I didn't rush. Didn't fire off emails or storm LinkedIn with rants. Instead, I sipped my drink, watched the sunset paint the hills orange, and let the silence build. Silence, I'd learned, was louder than any scream. The next morning, I dusted off my old contacts. Called up Sarah, my attorney from those early days, sharp as a tack, with a laugh that could disarm but eyes that could eviscerate. "Ethan," she said over the phone, her voice crackling with that old fire. "You sitting on dynamite here?" I laid it out, calm as could be. She whistled low. "They'll come crawling. But let's make sure you're armored up." We prepped quietly. I notarized fresh copies at a local FedEx. the clerk barely glancing at the docs that could topple empires. Sarah drafted a simple letter, no threats.
Just facts.
Proof of ownership, the clause highlighted, and a polite reminder of its implications. No demands yet. That would come later. I mailed it certified to Vertex's legal team. The ones flying in for due diligence. Let them discover the landmine on their own turf. Days ticked by. I gardened, fixed the leaky faucet I'd ignored for months, took long walks with my dog, Buster, through the neighborhood where kids played basketball and neighbors waved without knowing the storm brewing inside me. Apex's stock, internal projections, anyway, was soaring in mock trades. Alex posted cryptic updates on his profile. Big things coming. Next level. I liked one, just to twist the knife a hair. Then the first ripple. A voicemail from Mara, our CFO, pragmatic, no nonsense. The one who'd always respected my spreadsheets even if she rolled her eyes at my cautionary tales. Ethan, we need to chat. Call me. I didn't. Let it simmer. Another from Alex. A smoother, edged with confusion. Hey, buddy. Misunderstanding maybe? Let's grab coffee.
Buddy.
After 20 years. That's what I was. By evening, the tone shifted. Alex again. This isn't funny. Whatever game you're playing, it's going to hurt the team. The team. As if I hadn't built half of it from scratch. I poured another scotch, listened to the crickets outside, and felt the pressure mounting on their end. Not mine. Mine was the steady pulse of patience, the kind forged in late nights when the company teetered on bankruptcy, and I was the one holding the glue. The merger prep calls were frantic now. Or so I imagined from the uptick in messages. Vertex's lawyers would be poring over that envelope, cross-referencing clauses, realizing the house of cards. Alex had bet everything on a clean slate, wiping me away like an outdated app. But foundations don't disappear just because you ignore them. I slept soundly that night. Dreams of warehouses and white bards giving way to visions of boardrooms in chaos. The damming had begun. The flood was inevitable. The boardroom at Apex hummed with that false energy. Laptops open. Coffee cups steaming. Executives nodding like they held the universe's reins. Alex paced at the head of the table, rehearsing his pitch for the umpteenth time. Synergies unlocked. Market dominance assured. He droned, his voice echoing off the sleek walls. The Vertex team was due in hours. Their private jet probably slicing through the clouds over the Pacific. Mara sat quietly, her fingers drumming a subtle rhythm on her tablet, eyes flicking to the clock. She knew something was off, had sensed it in the due diligence reports trickling in. Then the email hit. From Vertex's general counsel. CC to the board. Discrepancy in shareholder consents. Clause 8.4c requires clarification. Hold on proceedings. Alex froze mid-sentence, his face paling under the tan he'd cultivated for this very moment. What the hell, he muttered, pulling up the attachment. There it was, my documents, scanned and appended, the clause glowing like a neon sign in a dark alley. Mara didn't waste time. Ethan didn't sign off. His shares are live. The room sucked in a collective breath. Alex slammed his fist lightly, controlled fury. Those are worthless. HR terminated them. But legal? A bespectacled guy named Tom who'd joined last year shook his head. Not without his waiver. The clause predates everything. It's ironclad. Panic rippled outward. Calls flew to Vertex. Assurances stammered. Minor hiccup, Alex insisted over the line. But his voice cracked just enough to betray him. The acquiring team wasn't buying. Their lead, a no-nonsense woman named Elena, fired back. We don't close with loose ends. Get it sorted or we're out. The jet turned around mid-flight. A multi-million-dollar U-turn. Back at my place, I felt the vibration of my phone. Texts pouring in. Alex, call me now. Mara, this affects everyone. Ethan, even the chairman. Old guard like me but softened by years of bonuses. Let's resolve amicably. I ignored them all, opting instead for a hike in the foothills. Buster bounding ahead, the air crisp with eucalyptus. Up there, the city sprawled below like a toy set. Apex's tower a mere speck. Perspective, that's what they lacked. Sarah called later. They're scrambling. Vertex is spooked. Stock projections are tanking internally. We laughed quietly. The kind of laugh born from vindication. Hold the line, she advised. They'll come to you. Night fell. And with it, Alex's desperation peaked. A late voicemail. Ethan,
Come on.
we can work this out. Name your price.
Price.
As if it was just about money. It was about respect. About not being discarded like yesterday's code. I deleted it, poured a nightcap, and stared at the stars. The merger hung by a thread I'd woven long ago. The next dawn brought escalation. A courier at my door with a formal letter, offers of enhanced severance, vague promises. I sent it back unopened. Let them feel the weight of uncertainty. The same I'd carried for years while they climbed on my back. Board emergency zoom at Apex, faces grim. Ties loosened. Greg, a venture capitalist with more money than patience, barked. How did we miss this? You said clean slate. Alex deflected, blamed legacy oversights. But eyes darted to him like daggers. Mara laid it bare. Ethan's the key. Without him, no deal. The clock ticked. Vertex's 48-hour ultimatum loomed. I spent the day in my garage workshop, tinkering with an old circuit board from Apex's prototype days. Memories flooded. Sleepless nights innovating. Celebrations over pizza when we hit milestones. Alex had inherited it all, repackaged it as his vision.
Now.
His vision blurred. Another round of pleas, emails,
Calls.
Alex's tone shifted to pleading. Think of the employees. As if he hadn't just optimized me out. I responded to none, letting the pressure cooker hiss. By evening, surrender signs emerged. Mara texted personally. Meet tomorrow? Neutral ground. I agreed. But, on my terms, a quiet diner off the 101. The kind with vinyl booths and bottomless coffee. Sarah prepped the demands, consulting gig, full share value, acknowledgement in the press release. Not revenge, restitution. I arrived early, ordered black coffee, watched trucks rumble by. When they showed Alex, Mara, legal, tension hung thick. Alex extended a hand, I nodded. We sat, and I laid out the folder. This fixes it, I said simply. They read, faces tightening. Alex bristled. This is extortion. Mara shut him down. It's leverage.
Take it.
Silence stretched, broken only by the clink of spoons. They whispered, then nodded. Deal struck. I signed the consent. They the terms. Walking out, the air felt lighter. The sun warmer. The empire bent. Not broken, but reshaped by the hand they'd forgotten. Post-deal. Apex buzzed with forced normalcy. Emails flew about smooth transitions, but whispers echoed in the halls. How did Ethan pull that off? Alex's office door stayed closed more often. His bravado dimmed. The merger inched forward. Vertex placated with my consent, but the scar remained, a reminder that foundations crack under negligence. I cashed the first consulting check, a hefty sum that bought breathing room. No office required, remote advice on ops I'd mastered. Calls came sporadically. Ethan, your take on this supply glitch? I'd answer measuredly, voice steady, knowing each word carried weight they'd once dismissed. At home, Life normalized in odd ways. I renovated the kitchen, the one my late wife had loved planning but never saw finished. Memories of her support through the lean years fueled my resolve. Hold your ground, she'd say.
I did.
Alex's unraveling was subtle at first. Missed meetings, curt emails. Rumors swirled, bored dissatisfaction. Vertex questioning his leadership. He tried outreach, a LinkedIn message. No hard feelings? I left it unread. The press release dropped. Apex Dynamics merges with Vertex Tech, bolstered by legacy expertise from founding contributor Ethan Harper. My name, etched in permanence. Friends texted congrats. I smiled quietly. Closing dinner at a swanky San Francisco spot. Bay views. Clinking glasses. I attended at Sarah's insistence. Own the room. Alex's seat empty. Personal leave, they said. The CEO toasted vaguely. Eyes meeting mine with respect. I nodded. Sipped wine. Felt the undercurrent of awe and wariness. Driving home over the Golden Gate. Fog rolling in. I reflected. Power wasn't in the noise. It was in the quiet clauses. The patient wait. Alex learned that the hard way. Months later, his resignation hit the wires, pursuing new opportunities. Code for pushed out. I raised a glass alone. To the unsung architects who build, and sometimes rebuild. With Alex gone, Apex shifted gears. New leadership courted me subtly, board seat offers, equity refresh. I declined politely. Freedom tasted better. Consulting paid well. And my shares vested at merger value, a windfall that secured retirement streams. I volunteered at a startup incubator, mentoring wide-eyed founders on the pitfalls of fine print. Read everything, I'd say. Sharing anonymized tales. Their nods hid the lesson's depth. Personal life bloomed. Dates. Travel. Buster's endless energy. A trip to the Rockies. Snow-capped peaks mirroring my clarity. Vertex integration brought challenges. I advised from afar. My input gold now. Mara called often. You were right about those vendors. Vindication. Sweet and silent. Reflecting on that conference room moment, I saw the arc, from discarded to indispensable. Not revenge, but recalibration. Years on, the merger success stories filled feeds, but I knew the untold chapter, the clause that saved and reshaped. Alex resurfaced at a smaller firm, lessons presumably learned. Our paths crossed once at a conference. He nodded awkwardly. I smiled genuinely. No words needed. In my garden, watching sunsets, I pondered, what if I'd signed? Regret?
No.
The stand affirmed worth beyond titles. The story lingers as a whisper in corporate lore. Beware the quiet ones, they hold the real power. And, in that, a question, when pushed, do you fold or forge your own claws?